Gundam.tk presents Unicorn Gundam. Hey, it's Robert184, 2Rs, 2Bs, as always from Gundam.tk, and I'm finishing up my look at the high-grade Universal Century Unicorn Gundam in Destroy Mode. Don't forget to check out Part 1 for the plates, instructions, etc., and Part 2 for all the parts. But now let's put this together and see what kind of model it is. Putting this together, you'll see that there's a small moving part down here which allows some mobility when you put on the foot at the ankle. Next, attach the legs onto the hips and then plug that into the waist section. Make sure you get that put on the right way when you're reading the instructions. And then drop this piece onto place and attach the chest onto the waist. Just plug the arms here into the shoulders. So here you have the high-grade Universal Century Unicorn Gundam in Destroy Mode. And I have to say it does a very, very good job of recreating all the details that the Master Grade had, just on a much smaller and more posable scale. I have to say the amount of detail that you can see in both the upper body and especially in the legs, it's really impressive. So the Master Grade in my mind was a brick and nothing more, and it looks good standing there, but what about this high grade? How does it stack up in terms of posability? Well, first of all, if you get the waist skirt out of the way, you're able to bring the legs forward and bend them down because of the double joint there. You're only going to get a 90, but still fairly impressive. The ankles you saw were on ball joints when I put it together, so they are able to move this much, and this skirt, this part here, does not move. Off to the sides, you're able to move it up this much. The side skirts don't get in the way, but that's all you're going to get with the ball joints down below. But remember that these hips move independent of the waist skirt itself, so you're going to get a lot of 00 type of mobility down below. As far as the arms, the shoulders move. I thought that was just these were going to move, but instead it's actually built into the chest compartment itself, which is very well done. Well, besides the beam saber getting in the way, you can spin the arm all the way around, bend it up 90 degrees. You would be able to pivot it around even though it has the beam saber on, and the wrists are just on a standard ball joint, so enough mobility there that you can push in or out depending on how stable you want them to be. And you already saw that the head is on a moving neck there. So overall, I'm quite impressed with the posability so far. And flat feet will take it out about this far. Now for height comparison, of course the Unicorn Gundam at almost 22 meters in Destroy Mode should tower over most Gundams. So here it is next to the high-grade after-war Gundam X, and of course the late 90s Gundams were all relatively small. But the Unicorn, of course, doesn't quite win over the satellite cannons attached, but you do still get an idea of just how big this kit is in general compared to most of its high-grade counterparts. And now it's time for a little bit of Psycho Frame versus God Finger. Here we have the high-grade Future Century God Gundam, and though I don't have the legs lined up just right, again you can see that the Unicorn is that much taller. I cannot wait to add the real grade RX-78-2 to this high-grade collection. Weaponizing the kit just means you take the trigger finger and then pop the fingers off, but you'll notice that there's a peg on the beam magnum itself, so again, master grade features are creeping down into high grade more and more. For the shield, you'll just plug in this gray rotating part here, and you'll notice that there's two holes here on either side of the forearm around the beam saber, and we'll just plug that in. When you put the shield on, you're going to have to get the beam saber down and out of the way, and it's a little tricky to get both of these sides. Not tricky, it's very easy to get one side in, but if you want the other side to be on, you're going to have to move that around to get it in just right. So fully weaponized, including the magazine in the back, that is a pretty cool looking Gundam, and of course the shield really helps. You're going to have to twist the forearm forward to get it there, and also the size of the beam magnum. Really, because this is such a tall Gundam, the fact that it has these slightly oversized weapons just seem to suit it very well. But really, again, I have no complaints with how well this kit looks, and especially the amount of details that are clearly visible. In terms of weapons gimmicks, you can see here that the beam magnum is just being plugged into the back of the forearm, which means you can do that while putting the shield on the backpack. And one thing I have to say about it's the practicality of the Unicorn Gundam and the fact that you can attach the weapons in so many ways. You'll notice there's a lot of times Gundams are flying around and weapons just seem to be there, or they use them and then they tend to not be in the way, so either they're tossing them or whatever. But anyway, the Unicorn Gundam has enough options that everything seems a little more plausible. So whatever you think about Bandai not giving you all the weapons with the Destroy mode, I have to say that with just the beam magnum and the shield, and the extra one magazine, I'm more than content, especially when you add in all of these attachment gimmicks to it. I wonder how it would work though with the bazooka. And when I see this, you guys probably know that I'm not crazy about variations, but if they did a full armor Unicorn Gundam in high grade Universal Century, I don't think I'd shell out the money on a master grade variation. But in high grade, if it had all of these weapons and was in a very cool green, that might be pretty hard to say no to. In terms of posability, I've sort of got to put this in two different ways. If we were talking about this being the 00 Gundam, the fact that the arms and the legs are pretty much bending at only 90s may come across as being slightly disappointing. But if I'm comparing this to older high-grade Universal Centuries, and especially to the brick of a master grade, it really feels like there's really nothing you can't do with this. Now, you're not going to be pulling off God Gundam kicks in the air on an action base kind of thing with this, but if you're looking for a decent set of posability on a Gundam that doesn't really... This doesn't scream posable anyway, it just screams being a big solid Gundam. So if you're content with that kind of image, I think you won't have any complaints about the posability that this kit offers you. The things that they add into the shoulders to allow the rifle to move around so freely, etc., and the head mobility really means that you can have all sorts of cool blasting poses, which is primarily how you'd be displaying the Unicorn Gundam in Destroy mode anyway. And because this thing was made to work with an action base, of course a red one seems to suit it best because of the psycho frame, and though this pose is not all that cool, because of its decent posability, there are some pretty cool poses that you'll be able to execute with this. Now it's time to wrap up with some final thoughts on this high-grade Universal Century Unicorn Gundam Destroy mode. And of course I have to mention first of all that it's going to be the Destroy mode because they split this into the two. And I want to say that I really like the idea of them doing that. And the other thing is, although this Destroy mode is missing a few things, like it doesn't have the bazooka or the beam sabers, etc., I can't really fault Bandai for jazzing up the Unicorn mode because, well, I'm just completely speculating here and making up numbers, but the Destroy mode is probably going to outsell the Unicorn mode like 2-to-1, despite being more expensive. So the fact that they did make the Unicorn mode a little bit more attractive and having extra options just gives you that much more motivation to buy the two. What about the bad parts of the kits? Well, the first thing I have to complain about is these blue parts that always fall off, so I'm going to have to tack those onto the backpack, and otherwise I probably just won't put them all on at all. The other thing is that, as I mentioned, the white seals on the shoulder Vulcans don't look all that good. It would have been better if they were a white part, but then again, they did a pretty good job. They did make it out of white and then pink with a white seal. They could have just done it with all seals, so not all that bad. And as mentioned, the missing beam sabers. When it comes to the good though, I have a lot more to say, starting with the fact that this has decent posability, and I'd accept 90-degree bends in the knees and the arms and be pretty content with that, especially compared to the Master Grade. And also, speaking of the Master Grade, this kit feels solid. And of course, there's a few small pieces, like the shoulder piece might want to fall off a little bit, and I should have mentioned that the shield has been falling off progressively more as I've been posing it. But overall, this thing just feels pretty solid, and that's something that the Master Grade and transforming Gundams in general, especially anybody who knows the Master Grade Zeta version 2.0 and the V1 Gundam, you just have a lot more problems because of the moving parts that are built into it. So the other things that really impressed me were just the great engineering. This thing has so many impressive things when you're putting it together that you'll just be like, wow, whoever thought of that deserves a raise at Bandai. And it's the small details like the gray parts here in the leg and, things they didn't have to do, but they did, that just really show how much effort they put into this kit. And the other things that I like, the yellow V-fin are a big plus rather than going with the white or seals, etc. like that. And the other thing is that the weapons look good, the shield looks good, and the fact that you're able to attach them all over the place and it comes with the extra magazine, all that kind of stuff is just icing on the cake. So what about high grade versus master grade? That's always a tough question to answer, and I tried to do it with the God Gundam, but if you take a look at the left of the master grade, it looks good, and if you collect 1/100 kits, I would say get it, but just get it for what it is, which is a transforming Gundam, which the transformation is impressive, but the resulting weakness and overall lack of stability is not, and especially the lack of posability. So on the other hand, for a little bit cheaper, you'd be able to buy the Unicorn mode and the Destroy mode in high-grade Universal Century, and I have to say that I haven't built anything other than the version Ka back there, so I don't know if the new ones are better, but at this moment, I might be tempted to buy the two high grades, but then again, I love 1/100 kits in general, so you really won't be too unhappy either way. So that wraps up my review of the kit. So anyway, why don't you let me know what you think? This kit's a little bit old, so I'm sure a lot of you have built it yourselves. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think? Anyway, it's Robert184 as always from gundam.tk. Stay tuned for lots more reviews and Gundam dailies, etc. Anyway, hit like if you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, let me know what you think, because that's always fun for me to read. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. And for no reason at all, here's one more height comparison. You can add your own comment here.